Welcome to Satsang. We've got our bird family joining us also. It's an Earth Day special because usually at this time of day they've already gone to sleep. Usually once it's dark you never hear them anymore. But it's this beautiful Earth Day special of them joining us. So we'll start as usual with a question that's come in advance from our family from all over the world, and then I'll open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. And as we always emphasize, there's no such thing as a silly question or a stupid question or a wrong question. Whatever is in your mind and heart is exactly the right question. And inevitably what we find in community, in Sangha, is that what you are asking is actually exactly what others need to hear as well. Sometimes you may think, I don't know why I was pulled to ask that. And then you find out that you were sitting next to someone who needed that answer really badly. But we'll begin with one that's come in advance. I was diagnosed with cancer in December of 2021. I am taking treatment, and because it is rough on my body, I keep asking myself, why me? I get so frustrated, even though I have a very supportive family. How can I find peace? Well, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear about your diagnosis. The first piece I think that's really critical to realize is it's not your fault. You know, we're in a very interesting time these days with science showing us the power of the mind. Right? We now have all of these incredible scientific machines, testing ability to test energy, ability to be able to see what's happening on the most basic levels of brain waves, of brain chemistry, of body chemistry, of immune system, of thought, of energetic patterns. And that's given us a lot of beautiful power. We now know that what we think, what we believe, has a huge impact on our world. That we are literally, through our thoughts, co-creating our world. And it's incredibly powerful. The shadow side of that is when things happen that we would like not to have happened, a cancer diagnosis, a house that burns down, or any one of the other myriad things that could happen that we didn't want to happen. It's become really easy to feel like I somehow made this happen. And if you find yourself living in a kind of new age world where the West has sort of co-opted some of Eastern thought, but without necessarily the full depth of it, you may find yourself surrounded by people who say things like, well, you've made this happen. Your thought pattern has created your cancer. And that's just not true. And so it's really critical to realize that, yes, we've got this incredible power from our minds to create our world. And our minds are not single-handedly creating our world. My favorite example of this is if you walk off of the rooftop, no matter what mantra you chant, no matter how spiritual you may be, no matter how deeply you may believe that you have wings, you are going to crash to the ground because you can't outthink gravity. As far as laws of energy go, gravity trumps thought. Now, that doesn't mean that thought isn't powerful. It's incredibly powerful. And there are things that happen in our world that are not because we have made them happen with our thoughts, or that somehow we've done something bad and we are being punished. So the first piece is, this is not your fault. The second piece, though, is you've got a lot of power actually to change your situation. It may be written in your karmic journey that you're actually going to change the workings of your immune system and that you're going to become cancer-free. Or it may be written in your karmic journey that what you're going to change is your lack of peace with this diagnosis. And that the diagnosis will stay, but that you're going to be able to find a peace, a freedom in it, such that your world changes, even though your physical body may not. The best case scenario of a terminal illness is not always to cure it. That implies that our sole purpose of being alive on earth is to be able to string together as many days as we possibly can before we die. In that model, regardless of what you do, achieve, experience, serve, the success of your life is to be measured by the sum total of days you have been able to squeeze out life. But that's not what a successful life is. It's not about the days in the life, but about the life in the days, right? And so we certainly know people who are quite old, but you think, you know what, if I had to die today or change places with that person, I'd rather die today in my life than be 90, 95, 100, but in that person's life. And so the question always to ask ourselves is, how can I, in this situation, whether it's a cancer diagnosis, whether it's having simply failed an exam or gotten fired from your job, or getting left by a spouse or a beloved, or having an accident that, God forbid, handicaps you. The question in every circumstance of life, and by the way, not only the negative ones, the positive ones as well. We get a raise, we get a promotion, we are a huge success, we get married, we get the job. In every circumstance, the question to ask ourselves is, what am I supposed to learn here? What's the lesson? Because karma is not a system of rewards and punishments. It's not, you've been good, so you are rich and successful. You're poor, so you must have been bad and the universe is punishing you. It's not that. The karmic cycle works to give us exactly what we need in order to take our next step closer to our awareness. And for some, the next step may come in abundance and success and financial prosperity. For some, it may come in a whole other situation. But the question is always the same. What am I supposed to learn here? What's the teaching? Why has the universe given me this situation? And so to our beloved family member who sent in this question, the way to find peace is to realize that your job here is not about how many days of life you can string together, because that's really stressful. I mean, when you've got a diagnosis that is fatal, I mean, life is a fatal diagnosis. So anything beyond that, I mean, as we are alive, it's a fatal diagnosis. We're all dying. Every one of us. Every one of us has a terminal disease. It's called life. It's going to end in death. So whether on top of that you also have another disease that could end in death, could end in remission, and then you die of something else, either way, we've all got a terminal illness or a terminal opportunity called life. And so it's very stressful if we think that what we're supposed to do is manage to somehow avoid the very nature of life, which is death. I mean, that's really stressful. We're not supposed to age. We're not supposed to get gray hair. We're not supposed to get wrinkled. Right? I mean, aging has become a failure. Forget even terminal illnesses. Anti-aging is like the thing. Right? As though somehow, if you don't look 10 or 20 years younger than you are, you're a failure. Right? You've let yourself go somehow. Thou shalt not have gray hair at any cost. Thou shalt not have wrinkles at any cost, right? And if you have them, it means that you just don't have the means to take care of them. Or that you don't have access to, someone who could guide you on how to take care of these problems. And so it's stressful. So instead of thinking about how can I string together more days, think about how can every moment that I have be one that I utilize to get close to God. Because even with a cancer diagnosis, you may very well die being hit by a car long before the cancer kills you. I mean, not to be morbid, but, every time we get in a car, it's a serious possibility. Or you may recover completely and die of something else. I don't know. But neither do you. And all we know is what you've got is this minute. You've got today. And use today not to prevent tomorrow, but to be as full as you possibly can. Can you experience the presence of God in you today, right here, right now? Because that's going to stay with you. The body eventually will drop. But that which you actually experience stays with you. When we go from lifetime to lifetime, along with the soul, the subtle body goes. Man, buddhi, ahankar travels with us. my knowledge, math problems, equations that I memorize, they don't go with me. That actually gets filed in the very neurons of my brain. That's not mun, it's brain. The brain chemistry learns how to remember that. But the impressions, the sanskaras, wisdom, experience, that becomes an impression upon man, which actually stays with us. It's the nature of our mind. So use these days. Whether this body stays with you or not, the mind will stay with you. So use this time to get that mind to be the best friend that you would want to travel from this life into the next life. Whether it's 6 months from now or 60 years from now. Use this time to find that truth, to experience it. Does anyone here have a question? Yes. Sure, it's okay. First her and then him. कोई बात नहीं, यहीं से शुरू कर दो भैया. Yeah. Done.
Sorry.
It's okay, you're good.
So, hello. I have a question that has like some sub-questions.
Okay.
So, I'd like to know if you, in your spiritual journey, ever experienced a moment of a spiritual plateau. If there is a thing, or if it's just our ego telling us that like, oh, we know a lot already. And if it's not just the ego telling us, like, how can we actively come out of it? Because what I've been sharing and listening, and also from self-experience, is that like when this plateau is reached, most often things happen to us, and then we turn inwards, and then we move ourselves into meditation, which was, for example, what happened to me, like meditation, and then became a meditation teacher, and the last thing you know, I'm here sitting on Satsang. So like something happened to me. But like if we feel like we reach this plateau, like is that something that we can actively do, like to overcome it? And has it ever happened to you? And how did you notice, and how did you came out of the
Beautiful. Spiritual plateaus. Absolutely they happen. Absolutely. In the beginning, I used to fight it. There was somewhere to go. We had to go. It was like if the train you were on suddenly stopped for no reason. Right? And you're looking at your watch and you're thinking, well, there's no way we're going to reach by 9 o'clock now. And every minute you look out the window and the train still isn't moving, and you're thinking, oh my God, I got somewhere to be. And so you get very stressed. And in the beginning for me, I felt like that every time I would hit a plateau. Was I've got somewhere to be. Like I'm supposed to be. Right? Expanding, opening, deepening, awakening. I know this place. I've been here. Now I need to go higher, further, deeper, more. And spiritually, it's even more difficult than it is in a train, because even though in a train we obviously all want to reach our destination, spiritually, when you have tasted that bliss, tasted that oneness, tasted that ecstasy, to feel like you are not able to reach there, or like, okay, now you have fully gotten used to the drop of bliss you got, now you're ready for the ocean, and you just can't quite get there, it's very frustrating. And so yes, it absolutely has happened to me. In the beginning, I used to fight it, and what I discovered is that, like so much in life, fighting it actually makes it worse. It actually pushes you farther back from where you were going. Because when you fight it, what you're saying is, there is a problem with this moment. Present moment, not good enough. Present breath, not good enough. Here and now, not good enough. And that pulls you out of the perfection of the present moment. And so what I've realized over the years is to actually just accept and embrace it the same way that if you're an agriculturalist and you've got a field, well, anybody who, I guess an agriculturalist isn't really the right word, a farmer might be a more appropriate term. If you were a farmer, good farmers know that you can't use the same field over and over and over again without giving it a break. The smartest, most intelligent methods of farming always will leave a field fallow for some time. It's in that period that the nourishment recharges itself. It's like the ground recharges itself. And the same thing actually happens with us. We go through seasons in our life, like nature goes through seasons. You wouldn't curse your tree for not having green leaves in the middle of a snowy winter. Stupid tree, what's wrong with you, right? You understand, it's winter, okay. This is the time we have empty branches. Come springtime, the green leaves will start to come back. There are seasons. Apple trees give apples some time of the year, not 24/7. And yet, I think one of the reasons that so many of us suffer so much on a spiritual path as well is that we really expect ourselves to be productive on every level. 24/7. That every day of every week of every month of the year, we should be able to produce. And whether it's in our workplace, whether it's creatively, ask any artist. Are they able to produce art every day of the year? Are there days that they show up in their painting studio or at their writing table and nothing comes? Of course there are. Probably more days than not. There are seasons in life, in creativity. There are rhythms. Our body goes through something called a circadian rhythm every 24 hours. Everything changes. The systems of our body function differently at 3 o'clock in the morning than they do at noon, which is why 3 o'clock in the morning is not a good time to eat a meal. Your digestive system just doesn't work at that hour. And yet we expect ourselves to be able to be productive at the snap of a finger. And this is true both in our external production as well as in our internal spiritual life. It's like, okay, yeah, God, all right, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm waiting. What's going on? I'm waiting. What's happening? Come on. And what are we doing? We're missing the moment. We're sending this message into the universe. present moment, not right, which is creating our world. So when you hit that spiritual plateau, just go, okay, here we are. Here we are. Here you are. Because in the embrace of this moment, that is actually the path to a deeper spiritual experience. But you can't tell yourself like that. If you try to use it like that, it won't work. The acceptance of the present moment has to be real and full, not as a means to an end. Yeah, I'm just accepting it because, yeah, this better take me deeper. No. But I can share with you from experience when you really can accept, okay, here we are. And by the way, this isn't even true only about spiritual plateaus. This is about, wow, I'm really angry. Okay, here we are. Look at that. So interesting. So interesting how angry I am. Okay. Not you're bad, you're wrong, stuff it. But just, all right. Here we are. And in that acceptance of the moment, that which you were wishing wasn't there actually automatically tends to dissipate. But only when you can really just accept it fully. The same way that you accept barren branches in the wintertime. Right? Maybe you went outside hoping to get an apple and instead you found a snow-covered backyard. Well, I mean, you could scream at the tree for not giving you an apple. You could throw a temper tantrum. But that's not really going to be very useful. Instead, can you just stand in the snow and say, all right, here we are. I guess it's a snowy day. And that's what actually brings you into that deeper spiritual acceptance. And then deeper spiritual experience. Because it's all about expansion. And if I can expand myself to include those plateaus, if I can expand to include an inexplicable burst of anger, an inexplicable eyes filled with tears, if I can expand my awareness of self to just include all of that, knowing it's all okay. The way you know it's okay is it is. It is, so therefore it is okay. In that expansion. You find that you enter whole new levels. Beautiful. Yes, and you had a question.
My question is very simple. When a person born on this earth, his span of life is fixed.
Is the span of life fixed?
That life, from life to death is...
So, it's interesting. I've heard...
Because I think if the destiny makes us to do action, if our life has to be longer.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different answers to this that I've heard. On a level of the physical body, I have heard it said that we are born with a certain number of breaths. And that when those breaths finish, so does our life. And I've heard that said actually in the experience of yoga, where they were speaking about why practices like pranayama are so important, because they slow the breath and therefore extend your life. If you've got 100 breaths left, well, you could breathe them in a minute, or you could breathe them in 20 minutes, depending on how you work with your breath. So I've heard it said in the arena of yoga that we're born with a certain number of breaths. When they are over, it is done. But in the realms of deeper spiritual experience than the working of asana and pranayama, what I've heard it said is that our destiny is created by these 3 different types of karma, right? Kriyaman, that which is immediate. Sanchit, which is all of it, everything from past lives, this life, our whole sum total ever since our soul has been incarnating. And pradab, which is that part of the sanchit karma which will be blossoming in this life. But remember that we also have free will. And our free will is intersecting with our pradab karma. So our karma is unfolding in our life. Nothing we can do about it. It's come from past lives or earlier in this life. But our free will is intersecting with it. That which I do today, my karma today. Karma means action. So my karma today is creating brand new karmic fruit for my life, which means my actions today are changing my destiny. See, if our destiny were pre-written, as in thousands of years ago, sitting somewhere on some cloud out in the sky, there would be absolutely no point to do sadhana. There would be no point to meditate. There would be no point to study. There would be no point to serve. There would be no point to do anything, because we would be simply victims of the unfolding of that which had happened in the past. But we are not. We know that when we change how we are living, when we start a practice of sadhana, we change our values, we change how we're choosing or deciding. Well, that's having brand new impacts on our life. And those brand new impacts are changing our destiny. So I no longer believe that it's about breaths in the body. I think that in general, obviously, working with the breath is a very, very powerful technique. Spiritually, physically, emotionally. I mean, pranayama is incredibly powerful. But I no longer believe that the number of breaths that I'm going to have was written before this body even came into birth. Because otherwise, everything that I do, the threads that are weaving from our actions today, would be meaningless. And nothing is meaningless. Which is why we've been given our scriptures telling us, I mean, if what I do today had no impact, why would Bhagavan Krishna give us the Bhagavad Gita? Why would Vyasji have spent all of that time putting Ganeshji to non-stop work to write down the scriptures if nothing mattered? So clearly it matters. Clearly, when we choose a path of Shreyas or Preyas, as the Katha Upanishad guides us in, clearly there is a reason we are told, choose the path of Shreyas, not the path of Preyas. If it were all pre-written, there'd be no point. Then every scripture would just say, eat ice cream. Enjoy it. Eat, drink, and be merry. But they don't. And so we know that the choices we make are threads weaving together with the threads that have already been woven to create the tapestry of our life. Beautiful. Last question.
You partly answered the question which I wanted to ask. If it is already pre-written and your karma is carried forward from one birth to the other, you will never know why you're suffering in this birth, because it could be, the past few births, that sins you're carrying forward. So how do you get over that depression, that anger, and carry forward with a positive frame of mind?
Beautiful. Well, even though we know that what we are facing today is the result of the past, and that's just true. I mean, whether you believe in past lives or not, either way, where you are right now is a result of the sum total of decisions you have made, actions you have made in the past of this life, or if you believe in past births, in the past births as well. But that gives us only where we are right now. That brings us up to present moment. Now, in the present moment, we have free will to decide what to do. So if in your present moment you are suffering depression and anger, first of all, I wouldn't waste much time trying to understand what from a past birth may have created this. Because to me, the why doesn't matter nearly as much as the, okay, here we are. Now, if you see patterns emerging, you find that something is arising in your life over and over and over again, these are things really worth examining. What is it the universe is trying to teach me? That I keep being given this same situation, this same lesson, over and over. But if it's not that, if it's a, here we are in a state of depression and suffering, don't waste so much time trying to understand why. It's like the first question we had about the person with cancer. Well, the place the brain first goes, why me? Why? What did I eat? What did I think? What medicine did I take? Where was I that there was too much pollution? What genes do I have? But that doesn't actually serve us in any way at all. What serves us is to say, okay, here we are. How can I take this moment and transform it? And so if what you've got in this moment is depression, ask yourself, how can you change that? Now, you may not necessarily be able to change your outer circumstances. Like the person who asked the first question may or may not be able to put their cancer into remission. But regardless of the outer circumstances, we have the power to change how we respond to it, what our experience in those circumstances is. And that's the power you have. So if you've got depression right now, ask yourself, what other choices do I have? What choices do I have? Because depression is just a habit of thought. It's a way of thinking that we get stuck in a rut. And we start to believe that the situation we are in is pervasive, that everything is rotten. So for example, let's say I got fired from my job, therefore I'm depressed. Well, depression says not, God, my boss really hated me. That was no fun. Depression says everything is falling apart. Nothing is working. Everything is collapsing. So the illusion of depression is its pervasiveness and the fact that it will be unending. Depression also believes it will never get better. And this is where it's really important. It's where, cognitive behavioral schools of psychology are rooted in, can I change my cognitive experience in this moment? Yes, I got fired from my job. But everything is not collapsing. Look, this is over here, that's over there, this is here, that. Everything's not collapsing. And you know what? There will be other jobs. And I don't say this to minimize it. This is not the, don't feel bad, dry your tears, repress it, suppress it, drink something, eat something, you'll feel better. Right? It's not the chocolate cake or 6-pack of beer response to depression. It's the real awareness that there are seasons, and there are productive seasons and fallow seasons, and there was a season I was hired and succeeding, and now there's a season I was fired and I'm failing. And it's a season. And all you need to do in this moment is find yourself, your inner self in the midst of this. Because whatever's happening around you, you've got the power to change how you think about it. And this is why, for example, service is one of the greatest antidotes to depression. And I say this not as a spiritual platitude, but really as science. Psychology, neurology. Science is showing us actually that by helping others, something as simple as buying the person in front of you their sandwich. Someone's in front of you in line, or behind you in line. You just, random act of kindness, you just tell the cashier to cover this guy's sandwich. Simple thing, it takes 30 seconds, a couple dollars. Or things that are deeper and more engaged. Start volunteering. Start helping others. Make sandwiches. Give them out to the hungry. Do something that gets you out of yourself. There's a saying in psychology that depression is the belief that I am the piece of profanity starting with the word S, we'll call it junk, at the center of the universe. So it's this twofold experience that I am this piece of junk, and that I'm the center of the universe. Meaning that all of the bad things that are happening, that it's all about me. The fact that the store closed just as I got there. The fact that I got fired. The fact that somebody else was selected over me. The fact that my house burned down. This belief that it's all about me. That somehow the universe really has taken the time and energy and interest to conspire against me. And so depression, the antidote to it really is getting out of yourself. It's not about you. Somebody was mean to you? Okay, it's about them. It's not about you. It's their own issues. The house burned down? Okay. These things happen. Not about you. And really getting out of that sense, this is what my life is. This is what it will always be. This is all it is. So get out and serve. Remember how valuable your energy is, your time is, your abilities are. And experience in your meditation that sense within you that even if everything is falling down around you, you don't have to be falling down. Your experience of the self within you is independent. No one can make you upset or make you angry. Take back those reins of your life. Turn on your internal love manufacturing plant. Really, we are the ones who create love. When we love someone, the love is coming from within us. They may be across the world, on a trip to LA, New York, Sydney. But we still feel the love just as strongly in our hearts. It didn't dissipate the farther away they got from us. Meaning what? Meaning the love is in me. So turn it on. Turn it on. Feel love. Practice meditations rooted in love. Put your hands on your heart. Feel it. Feel that energy of your heart and then send it out into the world. Pray for others. Send love to them. And you'll find that the depression lifts. Get connected. Get connected. Connected within yourself. Connected to God. Connected in your community. Get connected. And give into those connections. It's the best antidote to depression. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. Happy Earth Day. Happy Us Day. And I look so forward to seeing you tomorrow.